Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Well, they tried to suppress us, but they wouldn't let us be suppressed. It was a really weird.
Look at how well it's working now.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Hear me, see
it's
me
because
perfectly
it's-
fine now.
it's because when Bernie tried to do it, they didn't want to let him do it. But when I try to do it, I've been allowed to do it. Push the button, Juan. Push the button.
I got you. Hold on.
It's because I've been.
China. Illuminati confirmed.
There you go. Sorry, wrong button.
No, that was adorable, guys. The Discord's popping, and thank you everyone that's been joining up again. Because you know we have a new Discord. Isn't that hilarious how that works? And chosen one is here, so we're gonna talk about that in a second. But I wanted to just say, hey, I did pay attention to this. So I got a link just now. I forget who just sent it. I feel bad. You just told me. Eduardo? God, I want to guess. I'm sorry. But while I was looking through, I'm sorry if your name's not Eduardo. But yeah, so we'll check out this video in a second. But I also wanted to say, hey, not Hail Mary to Harry Mary, but the Chosen One's 101. Chosen One is here from the 101 podcast and the Chosen One comic book. The actual character, it's kind of like meeting Mickey Mouse. So I just wanted to say it's a real honor, sir, and thank you. So
The honor is all mine, bro.
that's what clearly, yeah.
So sorry about wasting the last 2.5 hours of your time as the first.
Oh, I was gonna say also like Bernie, like so you are brilliant. If this is like Bernaysian levels of marketing masterminding that you just like were trying to give suspense behind this, you're like, no, we're not starting it then. We're gonna let people know about it then. And then eventually when it happens, you know, I don't know how much crafting. Do you stay up late at night, like watching DVDs on how to do that? That was brilliant. I know it was all part of, you know, an elaborate
How
scheme.
to screw over your fans and waste everybody's time? Nah.
Oh, it wasn't so bad.
Maybe the Idiot's Guide to book. I might have read that one. But yeah, look at this. I'm not on the Ethernet at all anymore. I moved my computer back. Both are running off of Wi-Fi normally, perfectly.
Well, maybe your Ethernet cable's messed up. I don't know. That seems crazy. Guys, if you need the new Gay Mafia sweatshirt, it's available now, and it's pretty amazing. This is AI generated logo for Gay Mafia. I think it's pretty sweet. You can also get the designer Cocapelli pants, which have this Cocapelli mosquito with a mandible going into DNA, which is pretty sweet. I'm pretty excited about that. Oh, yeah. So if you want to buy some pants, or if you need a sweatshirt, make sure you do that now. Or if you need a cape, or if you need some crazy boots because you're going to go to a rave or something like that. But there's a lot of things going on. Get yourself some merch. You know what I mean? It's a thing to do. Also, I wanted to show you this because I was looking at yo-yos, and remember the story of yo-yos? Liminal, what's up? Did you know yo-yo's a Filipino word, liminal?
I did not.
Yeah.
My experience with the word yo-yo is when YOLO came into hip slang. I just wanted to say YOLO, yo-yo, real slow. And that made some people crack up. So that's my experience with the word yo-yo.
That's fair. The word yo probably comes from Yokano term yo-yo, or a cognate word from the Philippines. You see, in the ancient Philippines, there were Filipino warriors that used the yo-yo, and I couldn't find like decent pictures of yo-yo warriors, you know, running amok. So what I decided to do is just make some with Dolly.
These guys look fucking, I'm sorry, excuse me. They look very badass.
Right? Yeah.
Very badass.
I love getting pho. It's one of my favorite things, especially from the King restaurant.
Pho?
Yeah.
Pho. Yeah, I have trouble pronouncing that correctly myself.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the yo-yo is a weapon from the Philippines, which is pretty crazy. And,
so it looks like one of the type of weapons.
right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And rock on it's like a rock on the end of a string. So you could definitely hit somebody with that. That would be terrible.
They use that in Shaolin Kung Fu as well, and it's a pretty hard to defend against weapon. Pretty deadly, especially when you have something sharp at the end of it.
I mean, you know, we're not like advocating like weaponizing the yo-yo. I'm just saying, historically speaking, this is something to consider. God, look at that one! Isn't that great? This is so much better than anything Google's got. So I don't know. I got to release a series of yo-yo art there, which is something to do. But the thing that we were going to talk about is kind of more about homunculus.
And our YouTube homuncologist in the house, Juan on Juan podcast, Mr. Juan. Do you
Juan
want
who?
to lead the way into explaining
Sorry
what
about that.
it is?
So that's a very loaded question, because it goes so deep, and the homunculus topic is, somebody did run the numbers, and it is 3.92 degrees of separation between any major topic on Wikipedia, on the top 100, I think, and 3 links away from the top 50. And so it's the OG homunculus is the voodoo doll. It is the emulation or simulacrum of a man. And that's what we've all been shown in movies, the wax effigy or metal, whatever it is. That, and what you're pulling up there, the one with the big hands, that's the cortex, man. That's in neuroanatomy, the brain. It's a map of the brain. So that's an actual medical, like something that's used medically. So that's not the one that we're going to be talking about today. Is more of the alchemical 16th century homunculus. That's the one, the baby and the little man in the vessel, the traditional one. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Okay. Whoa, it's a bro in a bottle.
So there's a bunch of different versions of a homunculus, and that's the one that I talk about the most, because it's the one that's in these grimoires, pre-1600s, pre-Paracelsus, that for some reason people are so drawn to this topic. It's kind of scary. Everybody always wants to talk about the homunculus. And instead of turtles all the way down, it's homunculus all the way down, because back then they were questioning how are we seeing what we're seeing? Who's inside of our head observing our reality? So they thought there was a little man inside of our head sitting down, but then they were like, wait, so who's inside his head? And who's inside that little one's head? So it's ad infinitum, homunculus all the way down, creating our reality. And even
better than the monad. Okay, so subatomic particles are homunculi. Ah, that's brutal. Sorry.
Yeah, the microcosm and macro, as above, so below. And also we were talking about Kubrick before the show, and in The Shining, the little boy has a homunculus in his finger. So there's also that connection.
Shining boy finger. What do I gotta look up to get that picture? Come on.
There we go. Right there.
Boom. Okay, so this is crazy because I just did Think Tank a second ago, right? And right before that, when we were doing Think Tank, we were talking about ET in the finger, because ET's finger is connected to who's. Well, don't put it like that. God. All right, but there's another one. I forget. Whatever. But the magic finger is the thing that they come up with over and over again. Someone will remember. If you guys were watching Think Tank, fan service to whoever can remember what the other one was.
So E.T. Call Home is a homunculus?
I mean, also the chest heart thing, like glowing heart, E.T.
So I wonder if it's so popular because so many people hear the voices in their head and they want to be reassured that it's their own voice. It's a homunculus voice and not some other voices, or I don't know.
I think the subatomic particle thing is interesting because you have the monad, right? So everyone talks about atoms. Atomism is like, well, if you break things down, they're really just little bits of sand. And they're like, that's more complicated than that. What are the sand particles made of? They're made up of homunculi, essentially.
Well, if you want to really talk about, so we have the alchemist with us. What is alchemy all about? About affecting matter in a way to literally step outside the fabric of reality in order to affect it from the outside. So I believe that with Pythagoras talking about all his number, I think he's hinting at a binary code of some sorts. Binary code, there's a programmer or a simulation. And I think this sort of thing is like a glitch in the matrix type of thing, where maybe, because there's two versions of the homunculus. There's the physical version right there that you see. That's the Faustian Wagner creating the homunculus. And then you have the metaphysical, which is the Taoist or Taoist homunculus, which is the little golden body. And what the Taoists, the Chinese alchemists, what they believe was if they could reverse the energy that's outflowing from their body and reverse it back in on itself, they were able to crystallize well, it has to do with semen retention as well, but crystallize this fluid, and you're supposed to be able to make this little golden man within yourself that is supposed to exist after you die, and it helps you escape samsara. So there's also that metaphysical spirit body-esque type homunculus that's in the secret teachings of the Golden Flower, I think. Carl Jung was also obsessed with that. So, and who is this? Carl
Rick
Jung.
Kurzweil. I don't know. Something about immortality and the homunculus. It just seemed like a transhumanist thing.
Well,
But so
that's it, right? The homunculus essentially is that step towards immortality and
Yes.
transhumanism, and it's like it's essentially cloning yourself, but on the metaphysical, but then also physical sense if you combine the two. And that's what the alchemists seem to be so drawn to or trying to do in the past.
I mean, did God make man like bigger than him, or because we usually assume God made man smaller, so we're homunculus. We're all
I think, well, in the Anunnaki story, we are homunculus. The Homo sapien or whatever is a homunculus. Now, the funny thing about that is everybody talks about alchemy being the goal, the magnum opus is finding the elixir of life or finding.
That'd be cool if everybody talked like that. Like everybody, like if Kim Kardashian. Sorry, go ahead.
the finding the magnum opus is finding, turning base metal into gold or finding the elixir of life, which they're still trying to do nowadays. I mean, you can Google Jeff Bezos elixir of life and it'll come up saying that he's looking for that, which is, I'm in the realm of thought that the magic of back then is our science today. The spooky action at a distance is what we're talking about here. So this idea that
I'm crying right now.
That they're trying to find, turn base metals into gold. Well, I think that the actual goal of the alchemist was to create a homunculus, because the homunculus, spoiler alert, at the very end of it all is to give the practitioner or the alchemist godlike power. Look how jacked he is, bro. Damn.
Godlike
power. Be
powers.
that jacked.
Godlike.
Yeah, bro. So to give them godlike powers. Now, if you think of a leprechaun is a sort of a homunculus as well. That leads you to what? That leads you to gold.
Leprechauns or homunculus? Who made the leprechaun? Did they start out as like?
Well, the homunculus is also linked to mythological creatures, because according to Paracelsus, if you let a homunculus grow into old age, it becomes either a giant or a dwarf or some sort of.
It grows into a giant?
So I'm telling you.
Homunculus could be, in mythology, made out of mud, or clay. I would like to tie it back into something a bit more modern, where psychology and neuroscience has taken the mythological homunculus. There's actually an area inside the brain that kind of looks like, they call it the little man, inside the head. And it roughly looks like, from a side perspective, a man with a tiny body and big head and big lips. And what this actually is representing is a sensory motor map of the human body. And what they've been able to confirm during open brain surgeries is when you poke at the human brain's homunculus, it will represent with various sensations, feelings in the human. Yeah, they've done some live testing during open brain surgery with the human brain homunculus. So I find that very interesting, how it has progressed from hundreds of years ago with the mythology and alchemy into modern day psychology and neuroscience.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that part about the cortex, man.
Oh yeah, it's a motor cortex sensory map. Yeah. And yeah, if you're ever in the middle of open brain surgery, I don't know if you're going to remember it, but if they were to poke at different parts of the sensory motor cortex, you would have responses, like certain parts of your body would twitch or have sensations. You might respond talking about the feeling. So yeah, they decided to take ye of old homunculus and apply it to modern day psychology and brain surgery, neuroscience. I find that a fascinating progression.
I like that you brought it in. It's almost the same as a golem, the biblical or Talmudic golem.
Yeah, yeah, and that's they say that was the predecessor of that's the one that comes before, right? The Paracelsian homunculus. So he was reading about all these stories, and the one that I always bring up is the Golem of Prague, because the Golem is more of like a cybernetic AI type of thing. It's programmed to do one thing only. It's the phoenix, right? It's killed every single night, and it's born again every single morning. And the connection that I did with the Golem of Prague was with Rabbi Judai Low, is Parsons, his mentor at Galset.
Dude,
he would
birds aren't real. Sorry.
Yeah, he would boast about being the descendant of this Judai Rabbi Low that made this golem to protect the Jewish ghettos from Rudolph II. Allegedly, this is how the story goes. And one night he forgot to erase one of the letters on his forehead. He went on a rampage, started killing people. And in some of the legends, he grows up really big. And when the rabbi is able to kill it, it crushes him when it falls down. So there's all these things, but that was the inspiration for Frankenstein. And, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's husband and her, allegedly they were occultists, and they were obsessed with alchemical text, alchemical books that they were reading. And I'm sure that they came across books on homunculus. John Dee had a famous grimoire, the Liber Vitae, that talked about the creation of a homunculus using various matrices, such as the womb of a cow or a sheep or a monkey. Liber Vitae, Vaccae. You're probably not going to get anything if you pull it up. Yeah, he owned a copy of it. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it that he actually did, because he did own the biggest library in Europe at his time. And in some stories, there's a fictional book that he actually makes a homunculus for Queen Elizabeth. So there's writers who are writing fictional stories about that as well. Yeah, look at that. So
They don't want you to know.
They don't want you to know, bro.
John Dee is a whole episode on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
John Dee is
absolutely.
like a listless or endless lists of memoirs, and so much with Kelly, and then tied back to Donnie Darko.
So my whole thing is, I believe that even if this was meant to be taken symbolically, I'm sure that there was a guy out there, some Florida man at one point, that was like, hey, I wonder if I actually do this for real, what's going to happen if I mix A plus B plus C, which is spontaneous generation, which is Aristotelian biology. And it's like, hey, what happens if I mix these things together? And whenever I think of an alchemist, I think of some old guy mixing all his bodily fluids, trying to find the elixir of life in some cave in front of a furnace for extended periods of time. Because Paracelsus is like the archetypal, like mad scientist, grouchy all the time in front of his, in his laboratory, mixing things up. Like if Paracelsus could be a whole nother episode just on its own, a 3-hour episode on his own. But Paracelsus was a very eccentric character. He was a lot of the things that we know about modern day surgery is attributed to him. He's the father of toxicology. So the dose makes the poison. He's the guy that if you give too little bit of morphine, it's going to hurt. If you give too much morphine, you're going to kill the person. He found just the right amount to give people of chemicals in order for it to be okay. So mind you, how was this guy able to do that? Probably by testing it on himself. So like BurnEye taking some LSD or something in his room and trying to make a
Or somebody else.
It'll probably be me. The only thing holding me back is that last ingredient of like, do I have to get freaky with the wife next to the experiment and just like, oh god.
I mean, this character though, you imagine people that are testing snake venom and everything also, and they're like,
Pull
what?
up a better picture of him, bro. Pull up a funny looking one. He was 5'2". I think he was a homunculus. Check him
I'm
out
sorry,
right there.
did someone say they didn't want to include their wife in their LSD experiment?
That was BurnEye.
Oh, no. I was saying I have to include my wife as opposed to whacking it off to get that last ingredient.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
So,
well, of course.
Yeah.
Miss Bias. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, bias. Well, I am an experienced psychonaut, And if you're going to be with somebody, ideally, they're down with it too. It doesn't mean you do it all the time.
This
Am
is
I
Just
true.
when
missing
it's the
something
right
here?
time.
Is Liminal Bernie's significant other?
No,
No, that's Jeremiah's. JP's.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
There is a thing though, like in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, always one
Oh,
of them
yes.
is a little bit more sober than the other, so that like one of them can kind of anchor the other one. You know,
The
that's
drug that they took out
Absolutely.
of the spine, is that really a thing?
adrenochrome.
Yeah.
Go back to
Yeah, he's-
sleep. No.
Go
You
back
can't-
to sleep.
You can buy it in powdered form online. Allegedly.
Yeah, but do you trust it to actually be the thing? Like, I mean, they take it, allegedly, it comes from a live human spine.
No,
And then
allegedly is according to lead stories, which is the guys that ruin everybody's day on Facebook. Adrenochrome is not obtained from adrenal glands of living children or used in satanic rituals by the elite. No, it's like a True Blood thing that they make out of a powder.
Oh my god, you brought up True Blood.
Oh, I forgot about that aspect of True Blood.
Yeah,
Where they made the synthetic blood, right?
Synthetic adrenochrome. So, and if you go to the Wikipedia page, they're like, yeah, it exists because it's a chemical compound that was obtained and from the epinephrine. So, yeah.
Oh no, dude. I mean that you see the truth is stranger than fiction when it comes to a lot of these things, because I think personal opinion, when they make fun of these things or they blow it out of proportion, right, to discredit it, I think it has some validity at the end of the day. So
Silver oxide and epinephrine. I mean, you know, what do you expect? It's probably going to be something pretty interesting. I mean, the name itself kind of tells you.
yeah, no, definitely no. I didn't. Well, I mean, Paranoid American was gonna buy some. I think he ordered it. He said he was gonna snort it or something like that.
Wait, what?
1954, Abram Hoffer and Humphrey Osmond claimed the adrenochrome is a neurotoxic psychotomimetic substance that may play a role in schizophrenia and other mental illnesses. And this is, of course, in 54, they didn't have a word for psychedelic yet, so they were calling things acute schizophrenics. So they're saying in what Hoffer called the adrenochrome hypothesis, he and Osmond in 1967 speculated that the megadoses of vitamin C and niacin could cure schizophrenia by reducing brain adrenochrome. The treatment of schizophrenia with such potent antioxidants is highly contested. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association reported methodological flaws in Hoffer's work on niacin schizophrenia treatment.
That's some evil stuff, because I know of an account or two from the 1950s where someone with schizophrenia was given extremely high doses of B12, and they suddenly like woke up from the disconnected reverie, if you will. And because the family of that individual was connected with doctors, the doctors were, at that time, were like, we don't know if this much B12 is safe. So stop giving, stop giving them 12 grams a day.
Whoa.
And so they did, and that person fell back into schizophrenia, and it's absolutely tragic.
Wow.
I mean, even if it was extremely toxic, and we know at this point that if you take an excess of B vitamins, they pass rather quickly out of your body. Your body uses what it can and then gets rid of the rest. At the time in the 1950s, they weren't aware of that. So the advice of the time was, hey, don't give your schizophrenic aunt 12 grams of B12 per day, even though it seems to be helping her. If I was that person and I was being given that much B12 per day, and that meant that I could have 10 good clear years, I'd take it. Versus like 35 messed up years, you know?
Who's to say? I don't know. No medical advice. But yeah, interesting that the this is also something with Lyme's disease that is the poison worse than the cure? It's always the question.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very important point to consider. Like, I feel for anyone diagnosed with bipolar. It's very common for them to get prescribed lithium, which is, not good for the human. But it's that common medication they will prescribe. So yeah, I definitely understand the point you're making.
Yeah, I think also salts kind of connect with this idea of like the homunculi metaphysics of subatomic homunculi,
Crucial part
submonadic
of the
or
chemical process.
intramonadic homunculi that represent the radio frequencies in between DNA that are being activated. And lithium and salts, these are being used by these things to create consciousness, these electrical impulses that are making by not just consciousness biology, even the entire system of DNA ribonucleic acid explosions.
Wait, do what now? They're doing what? Can you
So
slow
like
down, Xirtus?
DNA explodes in these spirals. It's like a clockwork, spring clockwork system. And none of these explosions are touching. But then because they're reacting to each other, they store which explosions are supposed to happen next based on the explosions which happened before. So it's this spring clockwork system.
What in the world? I never even heard about that. You always come up with like the craziest stuff.
Hey, well, this isn't like a solid, right? These are explosive pieces of atomic particle, right? So, like, of it, because and this isn't solid either. These aren't monads, because like then these go down into smaller homunculi as well, right? So
The forever going fractals.
That's what Billy Carson said. If you add up all the empty spaces between all of the atoms in the in the world everywhere, we would have more empty space than there would actually be of what we call existence or reality or people or something like that. Was it you who looked up if you take all the
kind of like the Three Frontier? There's more room for there's a lot of elbow room for existence.
Yeah, was it you who pulled up the ball? If you were to take all the meat in the world or something like that, you could ball it up and fit.
Oh yeah.
In New York. So these concepts are like something out of like some science fiction movie.
Oh man, you don't really want to see that, but yeah, you can see like there's a scale of how big we are, and it's really not that much.
Yeah,
it's hard to find if you're not looking for it. But yeah, the idea that if you break something down even further, then you get down to this wave pattern. That's where things get to be a question. Like, are things really just waves? And is mass just energy holding still, or is it moving, or what does it mean? Like, what is the deal about? Yeah, what is field? And this I think is an interesting idea that there's kind of another kind of alternative to atomic metaphysics, which has to do with waves and has to do with fractals, which we can call homunculi.
Jeremiah, you here? What's Jeremiah's take on that? Our leading physicist, or
he's like
Imha?
He's like, no, can't make me tell him.
My commentary on waves or fields is that they do not have, in my experience, an abrupt stop. They have these nodes where they are the strongest, and they keep expanding, and there's nodes farther out than the calculated field where there's still an interaction going on, and this keeps happening to a lesser intensity until it's beyond our means of perception or measurement.
So, because you're talking about, Xirtus, you're talking about particles being homunculus, and it's making me think of the double slit experiment, how when we're looking at it, it acts one way, and then obviously when you turn away, it acts a different way. So the idea that these particles are somewhat conscious isn't out of the realm of possibility.
So many things, like the Power Rangers, each one of them has to come together to make a Zorg, but like they're all homunculus, like all these things. Like if you what's another example of an animal that you can split in half and it stays alive?
A worm.
Yeah, I think a worm.
Stick bug, starfish. I think if you cut them in half, can.
I don't know. I don't want to look at pictures of things split in half, but you get the point. Like animals can, some of these things that like the DNA can continue graft. You know what? Grafting.
Yeah, watch out with the images on that. You had something come up on the other one.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I have strict search on too, which is just really sad that it didn't help. But hopefully it was just from a movie, and we just don't know. It's probably okay. But yeah, grafting is interesting, right? Because you can just start take a little bit of the plant and then it'll continue on from something else.
So at the end of the road, the goal of after making the homunculus is to use its body and its fluids or whatever to get otherworldly powers. And some of the ones it was like you can make houses that in this grimoire, at least you can had magical equations to make armies, giants, and other forms appear in the sky. In the same book, they had the recipes for the homunculus, and the big kicker, the big kicker for the whole thing is that one of the recipes, the thing that really got me into this topic of the homunculus was you have to, quote, take a big dog's penis and incessantly beat the cow with it until its flesh is discolored and its bone is broken. So there's like this whole debate on how you would
Wait,
even
you
go.
have to make sure the bone is. I did it wrong. Dang it!
Yeah, dude. So how do you even find the biggest dog penis to beat the cow with, and then, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna interject here and say that I don't think that's to be taken literally.
Well, let's hope, because I'm sure that some people did. You got to admit,
That's-
when you read a book, you got like a lot of ways you can interpret a book. There's a lot of
Yeah,
religions.
those recipes though were obfuscation for.
There are
the
people that
inside
argue you
knowledge.
literally have to dunk someone underwater or else you're not a Christian. You know what I mean? I think that there's
Yeah.
probably people out there that took this literally.
So
I
that-
definitely
yeah.
remember the serious dog sacrifices in 2016.
Well,
There's something there.
that's the
Yeah.
thing, right? With the whole dog symbolism, and,
Yeah.
and you can go down the rabbit hole of what the dog is, but absolutely, a lot of people argue, oh, well, it's supposed to be taken symbolically, sure, but if you read the entire text, it's very explicit on what to use, and if it's not alchemical to where
The
you know
SPCA has this page. Wounded Paw Project has this page up. It's that common that people are doing this kind of things, that people are finding it, that they're trying to inform the public to be aware enough that this is happening. I mean, it's a serious problem, you know? It's
What?
terrible. Yeah.
Really? You know, I went to a Chinese restaurant one time here in my I promise you, they shut it down after
No
the
way,
fact
really?
because they were serving cat and dog.
Really? Oh,
Yes,
that's real?
dude. After we had gone, this is years ago, but after we had gone there.
That's gotta make like every Asian American the most upset, because like, dude, you're like nobody does that. Why are you like creating this false stereotype that's like out of control? But having said that, I wish I had the picture of it. Lance should be here at some point. Dog flavored ramen. So in China, there's dog season. So when he was living in China, my buddy Lance, he was talking about how like there were dogs that and they make like you can eat it in a certain season. It's like, what's it taste like? He's like, it tastes like wet dog. You know what I mean? And there'll be like pictures of the dog on the thing. I can't find it right now, but it'll be like dog flavor right now and stuff.
I brought this up the other day that Anubis is a dog, right? They were worshiping essentially a dog god, and the Juan Ponce de Leon, which I think is like an alchemical pun of some sort. I think he's a construct, right? Like Ponce de Leon, Pounce of the Lion. Well, allegedly he had big dogs. They were like obsessed with having big dogs. The church at one point was obsessed with like giant dogs or something like that. So the idea of, again, it makes you wonder, you start making connections that maybe perhaps shouldn't be made. And you start going down the rabbit holes of like, they use a cow's carcass. Well, makes you think of why certain cultures don't eat cows and they worship them instead. Right. So it makes you think about that. And
It's interesting when you look at Disney's Anubis, because you've got Goofy is chaos, right? So he kind of represents Seth, and they've split Anubis also because there's two dogs. There's Goofy and then there's Pluto, and Pluto represents the false planet, right? So he's not full Pluto Disney. He's not like fully. He's very similar, but he's not anthropomorphic on the level of the other.
Yeah.
He's unable to speak. And so there's this like separation between Goofy and Pluto that's really
It's like his dark self. Like he can't, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's and yeah, they're inverted, right? Is the other thing. Like, it's kind of
Like
they're
Bumblebee
really
can never talk. Bumblebee and Transformers can never talk, and obviously the dog can't talk. But then the
I
other
mean,
ones can't. You know.
to me, it might have been a more edgy thing because if you think about it, with Disney and the Song of the South, this might have been a racism. It's just because you're talking about people that own people, kind of a thing, right?
Mhm.
There you go. God, we're so far back.
All right, I'm just running outside quickly to grab a couple supplies so I can start this demonstration to show the first steps of what I believe making a homunculus. And I've got a few questions for you, Juan.
See,
Right,
this is why we have these stories, because of guys like BurnEye who are like, hey, let's go on a live stream and let's make this happen real time. So
When I
yes,
pulled up the goofy frame right before this started, by the way.
you can take it symbolically, sure. You take, after 7 days, you remove the marrow-like substance, which you must then grind with an unknown herb. You take the mixture, put it in the corner, and then eventually you throw some powdered bees at it, and you have living bees. And then you do that backwards, and you get a living cow. But then guys like BurnEye, they want to step it up to the next level. They want.
Bro, where are you gonna put a living cow, BurnEye? Does your girlfriend know you're
I'm
gonna?
not going to feed a cow to death with a dog phallus. Don't worry.
Because cows are like dogs. I have cows, and they're amazing.
Can you do it in VR? Is it
Do what?
like? Can you just do it in VR instead?
Well,
Run a simulation in virtual reality.
It's like a little world. You know what I mean? We'll get there in a second. Okay, wait. Are you about to start your thing, or
Yeah, I'm
we
just
have
gonna go outside, grab a jar and some salt and nano-coated copper.
Well, okay. Just when he gets back, I guess what I was gonna say is microprocessors. What's a good example?
I will
Rock
be listening, though.
chip
And no, I'm not
32.
going to get the secret sauce.
So you think about
somebody said I have a homunculus in my bong.
yeah, right. You think about the rock chip 3288 or some like variances, and these systems which allow AI to process thoughts, that is to take data from sensorial information and then gather it, collect it, index it, prioritize patterns, make decisions, learn, create new information, that can all happen on this tiny little chip. Happening just because electrons passing through, kind of like replacing a brain with a heart, is pumping thoughts. This is, I think, also an interesting kind of similarity to the homunculus. This idea that we're creating these thought machines, magic thought machines.
Well, yeah, because part of the homunculus is, again, magical powers from vivisecting it or dissecting it, and also the idea that it'll tell you the future, which is very Renaissance era grimoire-esque, where they're using entities to tell them what to do to find treasure. So again, back to the leprechaun symbology. But the whole thing with the homunculus is that it was Christian natural magic, magia naturalis, which is as long as you have all the ingredients in nature, it's okay, because you're not using astral influences or anything outside of the realm, entities, any demonic entities to help you aid in the creation of this thing, which you have the story of Faust, Mephistopheles, and Wagner when they make the homunculus. Wagner talks about how he tried to do it before, but never could until Mephistopheles was there. Again, Mephistopheles being a demonic entity. So this idea of alchemists being aided by demonic entities to create these homunculus is also another aspect to it. Some scholars call the homunculus an artificial demon as well, which is part of it all, because again, this is the darker side of the occult, and for as much as you want to take it symbolically, there's always going to be that Florida man who's going to take it to the next level, who's going to crank it up to 10.
If I might interpose here, I see the alchemical, metaphysical homunculus of old Renaissance times and before as a physical totem or physical representation that is tangible of something metaphysically that would be a thought form or a servitor.
Yep. Yes. Exactly. Yes. You could. There's also that aspect of it where could be some sort of astral thought or thought form or tulpa. Exactly. There's also that aspect of it as well. Again, this topic is linked to a lot of different realms when you really start to dig into it. And even Crowley wrote about it. I mean, Crowley wrote about it, and it was more of a physical thing because he believed that before the 3-month period of after the woman was pregnant, that the fetus would not have a soul. So they would do a ritual about embedding a soul into this fetus in order to bring forth the new aeon and all this craziness. Parsons tried to summon a homunculus as well with the Scarlet Woman. And you have, I think, Epstein as well connected to this. He did have the Zorro Ranch, where he was trying to impregnate 20 women at once with a consecrated circle on the outside of the Zorro Ranch, which is part of the instructions that Crowley wrote about in the early 1900s. And I think that all these people are occultists, and I think that they follow each other and they change up these magical systems, alchemical systems, in order to fit their needs or narratives. And you see the giant consecrated circle on the outside, which is part of the Crowley homunculus. It's in the middle of nowhere, by the way, bro. If you look up the aerial footage of it, it's in the middle of nowhere, the middle of 10,000 acres, which is also in the instructions left by Crowley. And again, it's transhumanistic because these guys were all transhumanists. Yeah, but if you look it up on Google Earth, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle. It's the compound is 33,339 square feet, which I found interesting as well.
So were you saying about a minute ago that the soul enters the body at around 3 months?
That's what Crowley stated. At the 2-month mark, at the 3 month is when God would put a soul into the fetus, and up until the 2-month mark, you could have a soul or entity, a demon or otherwise, inhabit that fetus.
So if you travel much farther back in time, the Tibetans had formulated something they call the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is supposed to help prepare you for death. And they talk a bit about the Bardo states in between life and death and coming into new life. And it's around 30-something days or more. Somewhere between 30 and 90 days that the new soul, it's in the first trimester, the new soul allegedly, according to the belief system, enters the fetus. So I find it interesting to see that overlapping of relative time period. It seems to suggest by the end of the first trimester, there's a soul in the fetus.
And there's stories of what they call the Arnaldian homunculus, where, again, this topic also gets into the philosophical realm, the right or wrong thing, where this guy was making homunculus, and he, as soon as they would be created, he would kill them because he was a theologian, and he said, hey, what happens did God die for this homunculus' sins? Did I'm creating this out of nowhere? Is this accounted for in its existence? So before God could possess it with a soul, etc., whatever it was, he would smash them. And there are stories from the 14th century, the Arnaldian homunculus, which is also, he was an alchemist. And again, but they were religious people. So, but they understood that as long as they were using things in nature that were given to them by God already, they were only either speeding up the natural process or slowing it down. So to them, it was okay to make these things.
Vince Beach says that there's a diss on me. I don't know which one it is, so you have to point it out. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Diss on you?
Yeah.
That guy's a troll, bro.
That's cool. I like trolls. Trolls are like, trolling fishing is like where you like grab a bunch of it's what you're supposed to do on the internet. You're just fishing. It's the Fisher of Ben. Trolling, That's what Christ said. Christ said, come with me and I'll teach you to troll.
That show you how to fish, right?
Well, it's a trade secret. You're not supposed to say that part. It's
okay.
Yeah.
Teach him. Yeah, I got you, bro. Is that what he meant by, okay, I got you, bro.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, we can interpret it that way. It's okay. It's open for interpretation.
It's America, right? Yeah, I don't know. So, but it does seem to me that there is this idea that on every single level, there's this kind of energetical, this consciousness that is existing. And it's forming something, and that's why the question of whether or not it's mass or energy, because we see the waves at a certain point. It seems like whatever is physically there is what it's going to use, right? Because the homunculus uses clay or it could be whatever, right? Or does
No,
it can't
so
be, really? That's
so the homunculus, because there's the distinction that should be made. The homunculus and the golem are two different things. The homunculus, the golem, again, it's more of AI, cybernetic, man created through the magical language of the Hebrews, and the homunculus is more of a flesh, like a more of a flesh and blood type of thing that was made from the supernatural powers that they gave sperm. And as long as you followed the right, you could have. So it also, they were misogynists back then. So they believed that women were just incubators, and this is their words, not mine. And so they believed that as long as they used another sort of matrix. So
so you could have sex and have a baby without women. So it was like,
Yes.
it's a one sex. This is huge.
So
Okay,
the
cool.
homunculus is the perfection of man that comes from sperm. And a basilisk, according to Paracelsus, was what came forth from using the menstrual blood of a woman, which was tainted. And again, this is them. Paracelsus also hated women. There are stories that he was gay, that he was castrated, etc. So he was very radical in his thinking. And he wrote about creating a basilisk, which, if you know what a basilisk is, he also believed that the only place you should deposit your seed is in the womb of a woman. Otherwise, you need to be castrated in order to not rot from the inside out. He
Yeah, I'm
believed
gonna
that
go see that musical Footloose pretty soon in Minneapolis. I'm pretty excited about it. Sorry, that just reminded me. Keep going.
he believed
I was
that
going to say the Chinese found a way around that where they just didn't
Footloose?
spill their seed. They cultivate it as energy for their life force.
Yes.
And it didn't require them to
That's a scene in
castrate themselves.
Footloose?
yeah, that's also, again, that comes into what I talked about, the Taoist and the internal alchemy with the golden little man. And if you look up Xirtus, look up the mummified monk, because these guys were, again, trying to escape reincarnation. And it makes me think of these guys that would mummify themselves and encapsulate themselves in these golden Buddhas. So there's a guy in there,
Nice.
and they would mummify themselves for 3 years.
Are you
dude.
kidding me? I hope
For
this is okay for
3
YouTube.
for
Yeah.
3 years. Are you that hardcore that you mummify yourself from the inside out, eating a certain
Alive?
diet? Yeah, alive,
Oh, wow.
dude.
Ooh.
It's hardcore. So these, again, and if you look at the terracotta soldiers, the terracotta soldiers are each unique. And I believe that there was an alchemical process going on there where they were trying to somehow infuse their consciousness into these terracotta warriors, because the color, the Hans purple, it escapes this reality. It escapes this dimension, and it's more than 2,000 years old, and they don't even know how to create it in modern time. So I think it was some sort of technology. They said that there is a pool of mercury on this site too. But again, these Chinese alchemists were also drinking mercury in order to try and live forever. So who knows?
Well, yeah, that's a pretty big neurotoxin.
Mercury drinking
and-
misogynists, and their wives let them do it. They're like, yeah, fine, you know.
Yeah. So
They
again,
weren't they willingly buried alive?
a lot of, yeah. So I just did an episode of The Architect as Magician, and the idea that certain pharaohs would also kill off their servants after the pharaoh died, and they would have to be buried with him in order in this cosmic kingdom he could rule over them. They started to switch that with effigy, so a simulacra of, which I'm sure they were happy about, because they're like, all right, now we don't have to kill ourselves after this dude dies. So there's also that aspect of it, that it could have been a simulacrum. But the creepy part is that they're all individual. And I've seen terracotta warriors up close in Chicago. I think it was...
The amount of artistry, attention, and detail
Yes.
going into each one must have been magnanimous, like huge.
Yes. But if you look at it, it's the microcosm of that macro that king or emperor wanted to have in that.
Well, that particular king was obsessed with mortality,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
That particular emperor
Yes.
was looking for the key to immortality.
Yes.
And when he was faced with the reality of being human, he's like, I'm going to bring an army with me. I'm going to bring a bunch of concubines with me. I'm going to bring a bunch of
Mhm.
horses with me.
Dude, I really want to
Yeah.
have a bunch of statues like this. I know that's horrible. I feel bad for admitting it. I just like, I mean, just hear me out. Imagine people are in the woods and they're walking by and they're like, "Whoa, I got lost in the woods," you know, and all of a sudden they see like a bunch of statues of people turned to stone in like modern sweaters and stuff, and they're like, "Ah, this could happen to me." I don't know. That's horrible.
Yeah, and it makes you think of what is it, Medusa?
Right? Yeah, it makes you feel like you're probably gonna get petrified. That
Yeah,
wouldn't
Medusa.
do it. That's too anime, but that's pretty crazy for a modern castle. It's like a gargoyle.
So yeah, absolutely. I think that they were either preparing to use the soldiers as some sort of talisman, because this all goes back to the idea of talismans, where they were literally making a magical talisman in the alchemical lab to use it for a magical practice of some sort. So if you were to take the blood of a homunculus, rub it on your feet, you're able to walk on water. And there's other recipes in order to become impervious to pain, another one to grow trees quickly. So again, it could be symbolic. How it could also be literal. I mean, we're never going to know if it was a real thing or not, because again, this is his history. His story, or whatever you want to call it, but I do think that
they keep making episodes of Pokemon where the homunculus actually deals with his master turned to stone. Then I don't know.
That was the original movie, right? The 2000 movie. I was actually trying to watch that the other day with my son. I'm trying to get him into. I was watching Yu-Gi-Oh.
Rough. That's a harsh movie though, because a lot of stuff happens, and then the kids are crying. They're like, "What are we doing? They stole all the Pokemon for."
Wait, the kids in the movie or the kids watching the movie?
Both, huh?
Yeah, no doubt.
Fun fact: the recent Tartarian song, right, is by Jason Page, the guy who did the Pokemon theme song.
Really?
Yeah, if you go to the videos and you type in Jason Page, you can see the interview with the dude who made the Pokemon theme song, and him coming off of a water fast, which is crazy because he had like not had anything but water for like 8 days or something like that, or 15 days, or I don't know. It was like crazy. And he made up a whole song like Recent Tartarians. It's super sweet.
Well, fun fact, the creator of Napoleon Dynamite actually bought a copy of The Chosen Juan. He backed it on the Kickstarter when it first came out. So
very good.
I can say that the creator of...
Is that a picture from Prometheus that you just showed?
I forget what it was earlier. You did something about Tibetans, and I was like, yeah, Book of the Dead, Prometheus, that'll work. But then really quickly, Chosen One, Napoleon sync, because earlier today I was thinking about Napoleon because someone talked about Napoleon, and I thought they were talking about Napoleon Dynamite for a second. Stefan, I think. So
rather than historical French 1800s Napoleon.
That's a construct.
That's random that I would do that. It makes me think that there's probably some connection. We should probably be talking to the Napoleon Dynamite director and creator. That's I felt like they must have done the right thing to get their movie. Like they probably lost control of all the money of their movie in order for like Hollywood to make all the money off of it, and that's why it was such a huge promoted thing.
I can try and make it happen, bro. I mean,
yeah, bro, let's do it. I want to put on a polyester suit.
Into reality.
Yeah, there we go. Let's synchronize.
So,
Harry Mary, though. Oh, wait, are you done? Sorry, are you starting? I mean, am I?
For homunculus, then it's that it could be they're taking semen and turning it into clones of themselves. From a scientific perspective, it's like that would be a clone if you're using your own DNA and then able to turn it into something. And
there's a movie
setting up an experiment right now. Like I definitely
did you jizz in it, bro?
There's not enough time to do all that. I'm instead loading a previous video of it to way better demonstrate.
You probably should send me the video because of the whole, unless you think it's going to work now. But really, the Wiz Kid is an impossible to find movie, but if you find it, it's good for you. I have it on cassette tape and Laserdisc, but it's a German movie. You can find the German copy, no problem, and it's amazing. But the English copy is impossible. But here's the deal: kid clones himself, makes a homunculus. The homunculus becomes better than him, takes over his life.
Really?
Yeah, and there's a whole weird thing with the mom that's very Oedipian, where he's a kid who's very timid, and he has like a shrink who's trying to get him to like sword fight and become more masculine and primal. And so he just creates a homunculus that can do that with a frying pan, and egg, and some of his own, essence or blood or something, I think is what they did for the Disney movie kind of thing. But then his mother, she's like, you changed. And he like dances with his mother and like shotguns a cigarette smoke into her mouth at like 13. Weird 80s West German movie.
That's not the least bit suggestible.
Also,
Wait,
did you know that
because it is, right? That was a very Borat. You're like, nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
the
That's
first human clone was created in November 1998? And the
For
embryo,
real?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
embryo was destroyed after 12 days. It was half man,
Okay.
half cow.
That's different.
I was gonna say, I remember sheep being cloned in the late 90s.
There's plenty of living clones right now. So if you look up
Yeah, look
Ray,
at Kanye West, bro.
Raelion clone aid 1997 Eve. Okay, that'll work maybe. So in 1997, can I find the article? First human
This is
clone.
what they tell
Here you go.
us, by the way.
First
I
human
mean,
clone born.
Whoa.
Florida, boom.
Florida.
Case closed. Florida man
Florida.
did it.
Scientology connections all about. A 7-pound baby named Eve was born Thursday, according to chemists. She's gonna be living in Israel. The chemists connected to a sect that believes life on Earth was created by extraterrestrials. The one
That
day
was a joke, though, bro.
No. This is not.
Wait, is this like a joke, or is this real?
The religion was a joke, so look up that
Oh, it isn't?
religion.
It's not a joke. Here it is. This is. Hold on. Raelion. Where's stuff?
Because I read
Raelion.
about this.
Raelian, there it is. The Raelian beliefs, and here's the Raelian movement, and they have a Swazi kind of Star David
and got the Jewish star, chosen
With-
people. Okay.
with the swastika in the star. Just so you know.
Nice.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I see that.
In
That's a whole nother level of symbology there.
So,
Okay.
but they're very real. The dude Rael is person. I mean, if you ever seen the interview with Tom Green, he did an interview with the Raelians, and so maybe that's why people thought it was a joke
Oh,
because
Tom Green
he-
is legit.
So
bro.
yeah, like was that satire? Was that
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
thing is, this guy really has a church. He's a Frenchman who has a church that believes in like synthesizers, and you think about Subgenius and the Discordians and all of the the Scientologists. This is in the same air and wave as that, and except it's a little bit more flavored by the Unarius cult.
I was gonna say
ancient aliens. They believe in ancient aliens, and they believe in cloning.
I feel like Discordians are more in tune with themselves than the Scientologists. The Scientologists have like more of a control issue going on.
I mean,
control power issue.
let's not debate Miscavige, but I think if you think
Yeah, fair enough.
Genetics are probably separate from the whole thing. Anyway,
I've interviewed
look
Ivan
at-
Stang, right?
Maybe I'm thinking about the original Discordians, from the 60s, where it was like.
Right? Can you imagine if the Discordians became like a paid-for group with an only?
Yeah. I
What's
mean,
gonna happen?
I don't see how they couldn't. Like, if you got all the right details together, you could form your own religion, get tax cuts.
They could easily go shill is the thing,
Yeah,
in like
yeah.
a next generation kind of way. But the Raelians are real, and so they also invest in lots of different groups. There's a lot of really intelligent, rich people around the world, Europeans and East Coasters and Canadians and South Americans that are all part of the Raelians, and they have been since the 70s. This was a lot less weird, you have to imagine, in the 70s when Scientology was less weird as well. It was a new thing, and there's all these new age movements happening, and the Raelians were saying, yeah, aliens, Raelians. And, everything you've ever heard about these ancient gods and stuff, those are just the Anunnaki and the aliens. You've heard that. So they started their cachet on it. People that got involved included cloners in scientific works in the French government. And eventually they created a company called Clonaid. Clonaid created Eve. And Eve is one of many clones that were created that live in Israel and Argentina and around the world from the Raelians. And so one of the things is Epstein's connection to Clonaid. And when you look into Clonaid, one of the things that's really cool is that they worked in vitro cloning programs. And so this is where it gets really interesting, is that since probably the 80s, there have been people that are technically cloned that were created in
test tube babies.
Test tube babies. And then these are babies that were probably born in East Coast medical labs to wealthy parents, that didn't even realize what they were getting was a clone to some extent. And then eventually what you have is a lot of people giving birth that are getting paid $20,000 to $10,000 in this. You're told it's 40, but you go to like Caribbean and these countries in South America and these islands, and the French government owns a lot of these islands. You can look at also the French territory.
So what are you trying to get at with that part? Because I know it's illegal to clone, and it's illegal to clone in a lot of countries,
right? But not on certain islands or in certain ships, right? And so, especially if you're in your free sovereign territories, you can do whatever you want. And so that's where Terra Mars comes in with Glenn Maxwell, because the Terra Mars cloning. Is that gonna
I think so. I think this is what they're trying to hint at. Again, I think that when they make movies, they're occulting true stories. If you look at the Star Wars movie, right, Attack of the Clones, literally, it's like an army of clones. They're putting it right in our faces, and that movie is years old. But that's the OG homunculus. If you look at it, is it a Jango Fett or a Boba Fett? One of the two. I think Jango Fett is either. I think it's
Jango's the first, Boba's the son.
Yeah, there you go. So they were hinting at that, bro. They were all freaking
Star Wars, right? Yeah, no.
Yeah, come on, dude. Star Wars. If that doesn't scream lizard people, I don't know what will. I mean, that's like the pinnacle of the lizard people. So I think that again, the truth is stranger than fiction, and when they
Rainbow Bright screams lizard people. He screams at lizard people. Fights the lizard people.
Is there a Care Bears connection somewhere here, bro? You wanna add that in there?
No. I did my thing. So.
All right.
Clonage's real. Is the point?
Look at Altered Carbon, bro. Look at Altered Carbon.
What about Ninja Turtles?
Great example with Altered Carbon.
Underground reptilian.
Didn't get into the hominids and bipedal humans yet, and Harry Mary, right? So that you know about this one, Harry Mary. Harry Mary,
you've told me, bro.
Oh my goodness, she
Harry
is Harry.
Yeah, because the thing is that Mary was Harry, and Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. But this is something that we've stopped showing, and we're like, oh, maybe it was Holy Mary. It was Harry Mary, and. It's weird, but then you're like, okay,
Illuminati confirmed.
I'm missing. I grew up Baptist, but I am missing out on this Harry Mary context. Can anyone fill me in like 30 seconds?
Amazing. So here's the deal. Basically, Jesus is Bigfoot, or son of Bigfoot, and Bigfoot had breasts, which you already knew if you saw the Patterson footage. Bigfoot, because Bigfoot has breasts in the Patterson.
Nancy Pelosi knockers on that one, bro.
Which is really weird that someone would have a costume for Bigfoot that would have breasts, right? So this is the closest representation we have to Mother Mary that's ever been released, from what we understand about the Harry Mary, right? And these pictures are even wrong because her face was covered in fur as well. So
somebody said maybe it's Maybelline.
So was Mary even Homo sapien, or was she possibly another hominid, or like it just sounds a little sketchy.
But we repeat. Sorry.
Are we going there?
I was just asking if Harry Mary was possibly a different hominid other than Homo sapien.
Right, exactly. So then you get into the idea of gene flow hominid.
And the holy grail. That's Mary Magdalene, isn't it?
But it's really interesting when you look into the gene flow of humans, because we have different kinds of humans that all interact with each other, but there's not just one line of one human to the next.
Have they put in the elongated skull hominids yet, like officially into the genealogy of the hominids? And like, why are
they're not doing consensus yet
depicted as elongated skulled almost, or like larger head?
What they're trying to hide from you, though, is this interesting thing that, like, so if you take a horse and a donkey and you breed them, you get a mule, which is if you're lucky at all, because usually they have problems with their promoter sequences matching up. But with humans, you can match them up with all these different kinds of hominids, meaning Neanderthal and Homo sapien can breed together, which is proven by Caucasians and Eurasians. And if you look at Denisovan, they can breed with Homo sapiens as well, and with Floriensis, and Floriensis can breed with the Homo sapiens, and the Denisovan and the Heidelbergensis. And so this means essentially that these things are not nearly as different as we thought they were. They're all one, like Blavatsky said, human kind of race or something like that. But then there are different kinds that have gene flow back and forth, which is, that means that we are all a lot closer than we realized before. And it's especially interesting if you look back and forth at this idea that Bigfoot might be in the last 1,000 years, maybe, last 10,000 to 1,000 years, there were more kinds of hominids still alive, not just millions of years ago, but that even continuing on into very recently or even today, because we're not sure. If you look at how grandiose the world is, there are so many places that are national state parks and whatever.
Yeah.
That there literally could be areas that are segregated off. It doesn't mean that they haven't been found. It could be that they have been found. That's the most likely explanation. And they just block off 100,000 miles or 1,000 miles or whatever.
Well, that's what I think. If there's any giant thing, okay, and you can chuck it up, because whatever I can't explain, I just chuck it up to it being interdimensional. So if we can't see Bigfoot, interdimensional. If we can't see the lizard people, interdimensional. You know what I mean? So I chuck it up to that. But if there's anything that is giant in the world, I think it would be like a giant squid. You mentioned, we were talking off air, a giant squid in the middle of the ocean somewhere, in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. Because come on, dude, I mean, I think by now we could have at least found something,
Well, you see all the time giant whales have the marks on the side of their body from being attacked from them. So there's that helps. And there have been 16-foot squid and things that have been found, right? Is this real? I forget. I'm not sure. This might be fake with the
probably
whale.
Fake. It looks fake, bro.
There have been 16-foot whales.
Megalodon shark that they found still alive. There's so much stuff down in the deep sea. And cryptids, like, they're in the fossil records as dinosaurs, as these megafauna mammals that were supposed
dinosaurs are fake, though, no?
Here's the thing, though. This dragons,
right? Like,
giant birds are so real.
It seems like
really quickly, look at this giant thing and imagine to yourself, like, it doesn't. I don't care how much bigger. It doesn't need to be any bigger than this. This thing would tear you apart. Each one of these little squid-like horror. Where'd it go? It's not this beautiful, man. These things will just spiral out of control. And then just tear.
It's got a beak, bro.
You and suck you. Oh yeah, that thing would be horrifying.
Is this one of those large sea squids, or what are we looking at here?
Giant sea squids.
This is
show the body. Yeah. So look at how long the tentacles are. They're like 3, probably.
They're even longer, and there's 2 of them that are even longer than this. So that what happens is you get close enough, you're like, oh well, he's not that close. His arms are that long. And you're like, gotcha.
This is a squid, not an octopus, right?
Octopus are like the cute dog version of a squid. You know what I mean? You can have a pet octopus.
From what I understand, octopuses are actually highly intelligent.
Yeah,
they are very intelligent, just like dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
squid are like psychopaths that'll kill you, and they won't be your pet. And if you try to take squid home, they'll just hold their breaths and stop breathing. They'll just stop their heart. I have a buddy who works with squid, and he put cameras on squid at one point, and the squid around the squid attacked it and killed it, tore it apart because it came back with a camera attached to it. I mean, I'm not kidding. These squid are terrifying. A squid can go, a Humboldt squid, just the Humboldt species, can go from half an inch to 2 meters, 6.5 feet long in 18 months, year and a half. That's all it takes. And so these things are psychopaths that'll just, and they have no bones. So they'll just burrow into the water, and they'll come at, imagine you're a fish. So you're going away from this giant squid, or maybe not even a giant squid. Maybe it's just 6 feet long, but that's still pretty big. And there's 1,000 of them because they just all breed so fast. There's the night of the squid, night of the
anti-surveillance
squid breeding.
They hate spies is why.
This is what it looks like when squid breed, because I'm from Monterey, which is like a major squid mating place, which is another reason I'm kind of freaked out by them. It's not just like a Lovecraft thing. But
yeah, have you seen the videos where they actually, I guess the Humboldt squid that had the camera on survived, but it showed how far down they went?
Well, yeah, it can go down a certain depth, but at a certain point, then the other squid will see it and they'll kill it because they can change colors because they have the chromatophoric skin. And they're like, hey, there's something wrong with me. Kill me. They're literally that samurai. It's just their squid are so out of control.
Really? That's really fascinating.
Let's say you're a fish and you're running from a squid or 1,000 squid, and you go as deep as you can go, and the squid can go deeper. And all of a sudden, you're trying to outpace this squid. Your brain implodes because of the depth. which is all part of the squid's plan. And all of a sudden the squid just goes a little deeper, squeezes a little tighter, sucks you up, and then drinks you like a Slurpee. And you have to be liquid because it has to go through their brain donut, because their brain's like a donut that has to go around. Like, so you just have to be liquefied. It's like, it's literally Starship Troopers.
Dude, that is terrifying to even.
And how they change their
think
colors.
about that.
Like, they literally have the most insane camouflage, like way better than chameleons, and how they change their exoskin or whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, squid are probably like aliens, but the idea that the idea that they can only have memories for 18 months is probably smart. But then they can transmit a lot of data because their skin can change like a television. So all the amount of information that they're sending, we're not even sure. And they have a third eye, and they have a jet. They literally have a turbine built into their body. I mean, freaking nuts. I don't know. That seems pretty crazy. So they might be a new thing. And so if you don't eat the squid will eat you. And imagine you're a fisherman. There's all these tales about drunk fishermen along the West Coast.
Calamari is amazing. If you,
Yeah,
you know,
I love calamari. It's my favorite
it's so
thing.
good.
But if you don't eat it, they're going to eat all the other fish in the ocean. You know, that's what they're doing.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, they'll eradicate everything else except for themselves.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll eat themselves eventually, though.
Yeah, but they can be cannibalistic, but they will eat your boat. Or they'll come out, like a fishermen have stories of being attacked on boats in the middle of the night, you know, and pulled over from their boat by a giant squid that just comes up and just pulls them out of the boats. So you have to be on a big enough boat.
So these Kraken stories, again, maybe they might have been blown out of proportion, but maybe not, because that's what they were experiencing. They were experiencing something coming out of the water and taking them and eating them. So I think that or maybe it goes back to our ancestors.
So. But like, think of an octopus. They can literally crawl out of aquariums and then like survive crawling along the ground to get back to water. So it's like, if there's a giant predatory octopus in the middle of the ocean that comes up and like preys on the boat, big enough boat, it could probably crawl up and come up off of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's tapping into our ancestors when they were on boats and they had to wrestle whatever was under the water at some point. But
octopods are chill. Everyone thinks octopods are so scary. Like, honestly, octopods are adorable and cuddly. And then just
isn't
suck
that
on
a Netflix documentary where the dude like falls
Yeah,
in love with one or something?
yeah,
something weird.
I was like, I can't watch this. I can totally see how this could happen. Oh man, I shouldn't be watching this. Oh no, now I'm in love with this octopod too. But an octopus is just, you know, it does every time, and that's why I try not to think about them, because like they get pregnant, they eat their arm, they die. It's just the worst life. Every octopus I've ever met is just, it's tragic. Yeah.
Repeat that again, slower.
What'll happen is they'll get pregnant, you know, because like they live fast, die young, and they end up starving themselves, you know, not just for like social reasons. It's because they're hiding in their like while they're gestating, and then they end up eating their arms because they don't know what else to do, because that's all they can do. And then which by the way, their arms have nervous systems in them. So if you cut off, that's another kind of homunculus thing, because if you cut off the arm still has brain essentially in it.
Whoa.
So it can think.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
That's wild, dude.
So so eating octopus is awesome, but it sucks if you're an octopus and you have to eat yourself, and then they die. They give birth and they die. I mean, it sucks to be.
Same as the salmon run, the cuttlefish and squid, right? All of them, as soon as they reproduce, they just end, and they're wasting away on that journey and portion of protecting the eggs, laying the eggs, and making sure the young are born or whatever.
You guys remember when
J-Lo
had like to insure her buttocks, and like part of the deal for like her derriere was she had to eat a certain amount of salmon like all the time according to her like insurance contract.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Salmon.
That's alchemy, bro. They know what's up. They know that eating certain things and mixing certain things together equals certain things. So if that doesn't scream lizard people, then I don't know what will. And yeah, she's a lizard, 100%.
Octopus is so good, but I feel bad because it's like eating a dog. You know what I mean? It really is.
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as that, but
it doesn't taste as bad as dog, but it's kind of like, it feels like, you know.
How many pet octopus to pet dogs out there.
Well, that doesn't matter. I mean, what does that even mean?
Hey, you've seen videos of baby octopuses in Japan, right?
Being eaten?
Sounds adorable. Oh my! Look at how adorable that is, dude.
Come on, man.
Okay, so there's videos of like toddlers eating baby octopus while they're still alive, and they have a stick jammed up through the middle of them.
Yeah.
And then there's other videos where
I don't think it's the stick jammed up, or is it just because they have a beak that's developing?
Oh no, it's a baby octopus. It's still alive, and you see like a Japanese 2-year-old just gnawing on this live octopus. The other memory that's really strong for me is it's a dead octopus, but when you pour salt on it, sodium, which is sufficient from soy sauce, when you pour soy sauce on it, it makes the muscles in the octopus contract. And so all of a sudden this dead octopus starts coming alive and its tentacles start moving, and it's kind of this novelty. Creepy in my opinion, just because I'm not used to it. But
right, exactly. You just have social, what do you call that? You're
right. Yeah, I have my social normalities, But I've seen this stuff. The most disturbing thing was like the toddler, the cute baby Japanese kid just gnawing on a live octopus.
You gotta feed him. You gotta feed him brains, man. Yeah.
As long as it's not beef, as long as it's not cow prions or prions or whatever.
I don't know. I ate a lot of as a kid. I ate a lot of octopus. I ate a lot of tongue because Mexican, food, you have tongue a lot in tacos and things like that. Cow tongue.
Okay, yeah. I have to ask you. I love a lot of different Mexican meats. I never done the tongue. I heard it's very tender and savory.
It's great.
Is it? I mean, I'm asking you from experience. Is it?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I would get it again anytime I see it. Usually, I'm like, how's this?
What about the brains? Do you ever eat the cow brains?
Yeah, goat brain I usually prefer. But
isn't that dangerous though?
Goat brain? Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's maybe there's maybe mad cow can exist.
Yeah.
And they should be careful out there probably. But if you go to a Mexican restaurant and they have brain, they're probably being pretty careful. And usually what happens. I mean, most of the circumstances I've been, it's always fine. Mexican restaurants are they're tight. And the labels are never in English, because they know it's only for people that want it. Like, oh well, okay.
You just order it and hope for the best if you don't know the Spanish language.
I don't think they're gonna want to serve you bad brain or something. It's gonna be good. You almost invariably.
It's gonna taste good, but you can't count on the quality being good. That's been my lesson.
I don't know. That's why I go for goat all the time, because usually goats it's better every time. And I just
every time.
Yeah, you just trust goat. I do the same. Yeah, Kitfo. Have you ever had Kitfo?
They eat everything.
Aren't goats symbolized with Satan or something like that?
Baphomet. Yeah, there's a Baphomet.
Yeah.
Well, one of the princes of hell, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, you better eat him before he eats you. Get the goat
against the octopus.
Yes. I'm on the same page. Eat it before it eats you, because it's probably more tastier for you on your side. So,
but yeah, maybe you should be vegetarians. I don't know. Do what you guys want. The Kitfo is.
I like meat. I like meat. I'm just honest that I grew up eating certain types of meat, and cow brains wasn't one of them for me. So.
Right, it's good in soups too, menudos and things. Is it
like meatballs? I'm just curious, with all the folds and stuff.
It's more if you get it fried, it can be like meatball. You can also get a pate, but if you get it fried, it's more it tastes kind of like how crumbly turkey meat or something, or really fatty beef.
Okay, like ground turkey.
Yeah, but it doesn't taste like turkey. It just feels like it. It tastes more like.
So the brain has a lot of fat in it. So do you taste the fat content?
I mean, in the same way you do in bacon.
Oh my god, bacon's delicious. So. You know,
Kitfo though is the Ethiopian meat. What they do is they don't eat meat a lot of the time, a year round. You know, they're vegetarian and they have like grains and nuts and bread that's made of teff flour, right, and jira. And then so what they'll do is once a year when they eat a meat, it'll be like they'll drink the blood and they'll eat the meat raw, and that'll be the one like immediately after killing the animal. Like that's what they do, and then that's that's basically their entire meat for the rest of the year.
So once a year they immediately drink fresh blood and eat fresh brain, is what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, you eat a lot of the animal. You eat all kinds of parts of the animal, really. You know,
Is it part of like a ritualistic tradition?
Yeah, I mean, everything becomes ritualized to an extent because you know, you're doing it once a year because it's expensive to eat meat. Is the idea, but also the French. Delicatessen.
Yeah.
If you think about that, I remember it in France, and I was like going to Saumur, and I was like, oh, I could have all these things. So I'm going to like a French farm. It's gonna be crazy. Like I went to a farm where like the Nazis had invaded, and then they had hidden in the wine caves and won because they were so elaborate, the wine caves. But the food smelled like animal butt and hair. It was just like because it was all kinds of weird.
Okay, when you say the food, are you talking about like a saved meat or growing vegetables?
Specific kinds of dried meats and preserved like salami looking things that they had.
Okay.
They tasted great. But they tasted like animal. They tasted like going into a barn. It smelled like going into a barn. I mean, it's kind of like the way someone might have explained to me the dog tasted for Chinese food. You know, I was like, but it tasted good. But it was this. It had this like animal.
If you had to approximate it to something to Western eaters could
it tasted
identify it. The closest approximation dog tastes like.
Oh, I haven't eaten dog, but my friend Lance, who ate dog, said it tasted like wet dog smells, like wet dog.
My friend in Vietnam ate some too. He said it tasted like chicken a little bit, but
doesn't everyone say that the foreign meat they didn't grew up eating tasted like chicken, or you know?
I think a lot of people are like, "Ew, I don't want to talk about this." But yeah, I mean, it's interesting just the kinds of things that people eat, and they're kind of like
the things people don't want to admit to is that when you're in Southeastern Asia and you're going through the streets with all the food street vendors, and they're selling you like fried seasoned insects, it tastes like a crispy wonderland, you know, like really delicious. And if we're being realistic or pragmatic about the future, we're probably all going to be eating some kind of bland protein made out of mushed up, insects.
In the sense that a lot of people are becoming bland protein, and if that ends up being the way it goes. But hold on, this is a video that BurnEye.
I'm about flavor country, okay? So when I eat food, I want it to be relatively healthy, but I also want to be able to taste the flavors. So,
BurnEye, what is this video?
I loaded it. Oops, sorry. So yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about with the.
Is that the bagel coil?
Homunculus, and being able to recreate it through some. Oh, you just loaded it. Okay, I paused it at that point. Yeah. So up top, it's making monoatomics, but in this electrolysis process, when you add blood. Or your skin, saliva, hair, any of your genetics into the process, it starts replicating your amino acids and RNA off the cathode side and bubbling up. And it keeps it alive. They kind of, with time, will coagulate together, but like grow into different clusters and almost like creature-like entities. And so it's like as soon as I heard your homunculus thing, it's like that you actually this electrolysis alchemy and all the ancient reading of the ancients knowledge and stuff of it that I have mixed in with this homunculus and modern science.
Like when Tim Allen met dudes that were from the actual spaceship. you
So,
know?
Mr. Alchemist, can I ask you, when you inject the biological matter, it sounds like you see patterns form. You see a reaction. Have you taken detailed notes of what type of biomatter does what?
I haven't really taken notes on that yet. Like each time I've done different experiments, I've taken lots of pictures of it that I have to go through and write up. But yeah, I need to start running the experiments in controlled conditions to start documenting.
Yeah, I would be absolutely excited to hear about your data. Based on what type of biomatter you're adding to what elements. I would love to hear about that. Yeah, absolutely.
It makes me think of Frankenstein when because you're putting electricity in there, right? Essentially, so it makes me think of the experiments that
was my next question. I figured you were charging it with a current, and I was going to ask you about the details of what you're charging it with, but it sounds like you need to parse it down and say, I'm using this biomatter, I'm charging it at this current or this amp, and then recording the data points.
For the record, I have not tried to reproduce a homunculus.
Sure, it's all right, bro. That's what.
Hey, I don't need you. I don't need you to reproduce anything you don't want to. I'm just suggesting it would be cool to have some data points on stuff I brought up, so that maybe I could build off of it, experiment off of it. Other people listening to you right now might build off of it,
So as the nastiest I've gotten is put some snot into it, and that actually grew into like the craziest, weirdest, like hovering, floating, almost like little planet moon. It was weird.
It turned into like a almost spherical shape.
Kind of like clouds almost.
Wait, where's the opening? Where's the opening?
So
Bernie, yeah, they're on to you, bro.
FBI, open up!
They want you right now because they're like, Xirtus, look up
Whoever's on the freaking call with this excellent audio clipping is definitely on par tonight, man. That was awesome.
Jeremiah,
Xirtus, look up
Juan Jeremiah.
Look up the Russian homunculus. There's a guy on YouTube who injects sperm into eggs and.
Oh my God! I've been telling it. Oh my God! I don't even know if I should say this politely. Jeremiah smells slightly.
Don't.
No. Okay, I can't. I
have to call my girlfriend. She's going to bed.
I can't say it.
Nothing personal. Remember the rule.
I don't know what personal is.
Personal is that.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Yeah, so this guy right here makes a bunch of videos on how to create a homunculus. It's been supposedly debunked, but again, but
debunked versus disproven, two very different things.
Good observation.
It's a chicken human homunculus.
Yeah. So he injects it, lets it putrefy, because the thing with the homunculus, it's that putrefaction brings forth life. So Paracelsus thought that the chicken was actually warming up the egg so it would rot in order to bring forth the little chick. It wasn't
like
that it was
inseminated. Like a death rebirth kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. It's all about putrefaction for some reason. They thought, because again, it was based off observation. They left a piece of meat out.
Oh my God, that is ass to ass chicken, is it not? That reminds me of Human Centipede or something. I don't know. Like,
that's terrifying.
Yeah, I didn't actually watch the whole movie. I just okay. There's KFC. Never gonna eat there again. Okay. Do you guys want to see something cool Jeremiah provided?
I mean, is it cooler than a homunculus on air with?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, probably.
I mean, Xirtus. You're muted, bro.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
What is it?
Jeremiah
You
is
have the
muted
thing?
for the
Show
moment, but he
show
has set
Jeremiah's
up a
photo.
demonstration for you guys.
Put up the demonstration.
Yeah, he
of
set up
course.
a
We love Jeremiah's
demonstration.
demonstrations. Join the technicians with Juan. Juan the technicians. It'll be great. Is there a screen share or how does this work?
Okay, apparently my hands are prettier, so I will be doing the video demo if you gentlemen do not mind.
I'm scared.
If
Is
you
this
get
the
it- if
weirdest
you end up
episode
with-
you've done, Xirtus?
Let's get in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a little levitation.
All right.
Yep,
Just a little levitation.
just a little. Okay. So we're getting the camera into place. Oh, nope. That's not what you want.
Let's put the craft levitation scene up. There we go. Man, not being a girl.
Not being a girl. Yeah.
You get
I
to
think
do
I
this.
got the short stick on anatomy, so
Pretty sure most of the girls they get to do this, right? All girls get to do levitation at like
Yeah.
sleepovers. That's what girls do.
The
bring
Sabbath.
up the camera options again.
At least in where I come from in Santa Cruz, that was the thing. Pretty sure I missed out on. It's like if you were like a Sega kid, you know, and you get to play Nintendo games. No levitation.
The suspense is killing me. Where'd Bernie go, bro? Right when it was getting good.
Sorry, we're just give
You
us
did-
2
you
more
played that
minutes.
F-
We're
you
just
played
trying
that
to set up the
FBI.
camera.
You played that FBI thing.
He went
and
to go
was
check his
like,
front
"Oh,
door.
oh." Better
Went
get
to
the
go check his-
magnet, erase the floppies.
Might need
Somebody
to
said,
flip.
"Why is the FBI in
Is
Canada?"
it good?
It's good.
It's good?
All you gotta do is pick it up and we'll hit it.
Whoa! Make his
Oh,
screen
okay.
bigger.
So-
Xirtus.
All
I
right.
don't know, bro.
All right.
I don't do these just 'cause people tell me to. No, here
All
you
right.
go. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Ooh.
from the lab of Join the Technicians, Jeremiah, here come the beautiful hands of, what was your name again? I'm sorry.
Just call me Liminal for now.
Liminal.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Ooh, that's some intense vibration.
Jeremiah, what's going on? Are you going to tell us what's happening while she's doing this?
We
Is
need
this going to be like a magic
commentary.
show? I need like a magic show.
Oh, like levitation.
And now as the lovely Liminal lifts the magnet with her hands.
Ooh. Oh. I don't know where the magnet went. I will be back
It's
in
on the elevator clip.
elevator clip.
Elevator clip right there.
Baby, everything is strobing. Why don't you point it out?
Here you go.
Thank you. Whoa.
Oh, don't hold it too much because
No,
it will
I
fall out
need
of
to
your
have
hand.
the. Whoa. Okay. All right. So.
Right underneath and deadlock center. Let it link, and once it's locked, it's pretty well unstable.
This is how we're going to park spaceships. In front of McDonald's.
Oh, it's spinning too, right?
There we go.
Whoa. There you go. Magic right there.
Bum, 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 bum. The lights start flashing. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, these are the steps towards the homunculus that we can
Yeah,
take.
when
with
you when you
magic.
add blood, it starts to do flips backwards, and then when you add
Right.
saliva and hair and stuff, it starts to do other things, of course. Right.
There's that scene in Super 8 with Steven Spielberg where the world turns into a giant, you know, like the alien ship grabs a bunch of stuff, pulls it together to make a ship, magnetizes all the matter, and just builds itself out of resources that are around.
What movie was that?
Super 8?
Is that the one with like the alien? That's the one with the aliens, right?
Yeah.
The monsters? Yeah, no, I've seen that one. Nice.
It is fairly stable, isn't it?
It is, as long as they hold it on the right axis.
So right now we're going to build a little enclosure shortly. We're trying to figure out right now what exactly we want to use for the pyramid geometry, and there's a lot of options really.
Yeah, the trailer for Super 8 has like a Tesla tower in the front of it, and the kids are at a water tower, right? But it looks like the Tesla tower. And then this cloud shows up, and it's an energy alien, and they just form their bodies from the mass of stardust and dirt from the earth when they get there, and they form their spaceship from the materials they get there as well. But like the form of it is an energy form.
The prima materia or something like that. I think that's what they
Right.
call it. The alchemists called it. It's what they use for the philosopher stone and the transmutation of base metals into gold. So, yeah. Oh, and I remember that movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kid, the kids, when they were shrunk into little homunculus.
And that ant, yeah. What's the deal with the ant in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where the ant dies, gets sacrificed at the end? It's like Cocopelli or something.
I mean, ants are kind of like dogs, right? So it kind of gets sacrificed to Moloch or something. But I was on a stream the other day, or not on a stream. I was watching a podcast the other day where they were talking about depictions in ancient times of people riding ants. Is that a real thing?
Well,
Yeah, right.
Ant people to the Hopi, so
And,
Right,
and
the-
the ant people, yeah.
Lemurians are supposed to be, and there's all these things. You go to the parks and you can see all the pictures of that. Still, I haven't seen any old pictures, but that's a big part of Ant-Man and the Wasp. But you think about an ant the size of your fist could pick you up and carry you away, and these giant ants and ant people, Hopi. If I can look that up, I don't know if Hopi is in the best direction, but you'll see this idea that there were these giant super beings that were essentially insectoids that roamed the earth, lived underground occasionally, and hit out the reset that way. And that perhaps, just back to your Ninja Turtles techno drone, is that the Ninja Turtles technodrome has to do with future humanoids
Whoa.
that are living on our timeline and are trying to, in both timelines, and are trying to avoid.
It's CERN.
Yeah, and look at this kid right here too. He's like, I can imagine how stoked he is too, because he's like,
I
this is-
forgot about the techno drone.
never forget the Technodrome. That's
So
the
what's
thing.
the lore behind the Technodrome? Because I don't know what that is, but it looks
So-
really cool.
So in the Ninja Turtles, that you find out basically Ninja Turtles comic book was originally about the Philadelphia experiments and Montauk projects,
Really?
right? And so they were, and this is something Thomas and I were talking about from Paranoid American, is that the Montauk projects and the New York sewers are connected, and there's a huge map that we showed in the episode with Paranoid American about that. But
So
mutants from this Dimension X thing have to do with the Montauk, Philadelphia opening portals to the other dimension, and there's a war going on in Dimension X, and Krang is actually a giant reptilian, but you only see his brain because his brain was jettisoned from Dimension X after he lost the war. As a punishment, he lost his body. But let's see if I can find his.
so we can connect this to the homunculus because James Shelby Downer believed that a homunculus was inside the jumbo at the ground zero in New Mexico. And they were hinting at that the government was trying to radioactively make a homunculus, which look at the black goo too, maybe it might be that.
It's hard to find a picture of him as a lizard, but yeah, he's some giant Godzilla-like huge lizard. And then he becomes this tiny little brain, and then he meets Shredder, and he's like, because Shredder is from Japan, and there's an atomic explosion, and that opens a portal as well. And so afterwards, he comes through the portal. He's like, "Hey, I'll give you all the tech you need to become rich and famous. Just build me a body, right? Build me the body for my homunculus." So,
and in one of the latest movies, they mix DNA too. They turn one of the guys into a rhino, and the other guy into another sort of chimera too. In one of the latest movies I saw.
right, and that's a big part of his Bebop. Let me see if I can remove Krang for a second. Bebop and Rocksteady are characters who they start out as human, and then they get tricked into this paramilitary group, takes them and does this chemical experiment on them, and mutates them with wild animals, right? Which pretty soon I think there's going to be something about why it was a rhino and a warthog too.
And the Chupacabra, back to Puerto Rico, because we were talking about Puerto Rico off air, is a failed experiment from some lab that it broke out in Puerto Rico.
I've heard that thesis on it, and makes sense with like what's the movie Peacekeeper or Suicide Squad? The Suicide Squad movie,
Oh, yeah.
where they do these crazy tests in some like Central American little island nation.
I remember being a kid in Puerto Rico. I was 6 or 7 years old and hearing the stories of my dad's friends staying up late at a ranch somewhere because all the animals were sucked clean of their blood, and how, because in Puerto Rico we have shutters. I remember hearing stories of a hand with claws just reaching in and grabbing people through their windows. I grew up hearing about the Chupacabra as a kid, and it terrified me to think that there was something out in the, because Puerto Rico is really, it's woody and it's mountainous, so for there to be like some alien thing out there, get, you know, potentially after you or something, and just really creepy.
I hear an echo coming through somebody's thing.
Oh, that's my iced coffee drink being swirled. Sorry.
Oh,
What are we looking at now?
Yeah, what are we looking at?
Tartaria, but just 1 hour and how long did I say? 1 hour 43 minutes. There we go.
Oh,
so
your
this
homunculus
one,
again?
I'm making monoatomic gold and monoatomic silver combination, with the gold being the prevalent metal, monoatomic being formed off the anode side. And it's what I believe the alchemists encode to be the philosopher's stone, is this monoatomic gold-silver combination, both from the ancient legends of mana and monoatomic gold in general. But the drawings that the alchemists label the philosopher's stone, you have two snakes going into a pond, and the one snake head is the sun, which the alchemists call gold, and the other snake head is the moon, which the alchemists call silver. And then through this electrolysis, I'm able to make this. But specifically on this jar, that's the jar on the right side that's more lit up, you can see the bubbles flowing, and the little in the middle, there's like at the water level, there's like this red chunk that's just below the surface, and then the white matter that's above the water line. That was a drop of blood that I dropped in. I pricked my finger and let it fall in, and then it's grown into this like red matter, and then
Juan's out here writing books. BurnEye's out here with like
Making
pentagrams.
homunculus, bro.
What?
So BurnEye, not to make the assumption, but you have done tests, blood versus no blood, right?
Oh, of course.
Absolutely.
It's crazy that the only thing that changes when making the monoatomic
kids,
when you put the blood in, is the bubbling off the cathode side of this amino acids, your RNA.
Melissa says he's trying to grow his girlfriend an engagement ring. It's a beautiful backstory.
Let's back up here. Are you using particular amino acids?
No. That's what supposedly grows in the foam off the cathode side. This is what the Keshe Foundation teaches, but also you can check it on Wikipedia. The Nazis discovered this in the 40s or early 30s, right before World War II, and then it hasn't been acknowledged or studied officially since. And
okay, so have you harvested your monoatomics from no blood versus blood? I'm just curious on your personal experimentation.
And so this is monoatomic, although it has a little bit of gold, but the majority of this is silver and copper in this mixture. And it always turns out in the white, fluffy, pure, snowflake-like.
I'm really glad it's you doing these experiments and not me. And I'll stick to the theory side of it. I'll leave the practical stuff to you, bro.
Right? Exactly.
This episode is
brought to you by Pfizer.
It's our new sponsor of the show today. They are doing alchemy real time, showing us how to make homunculus.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like someone at Pfizer's probably done this too. You know,
100%,
Do
bro.
you mind going back about a minute or two in that video that's playing currently?
yeah, right here.
Yeah. So if you see that red or brown little chunk that's at the top of the water there in the middle, that's what the drop of blood turned into. And that's the only difference that adding the blood does from the monoatomics, and also making this bubbly matter that is claimed to be your amino acids. I haven't tested it. I can't verify it, but that's what they state that it is. So I assume it is. And the only difference between running that experiment or that process of making this monoatomic gold silver without blood or with your blood, the white material itself, what the metal breaks down into, remains the exact same in both of the processes. Although if you leave that blood in, or also I put hair in for another person that I was making some for his father.
Wakes you up at night?
And you seal it, it actually begins to turn purple, and the whole monoatomic gold silver combination turns crazy purple after about.
Hey, are you guys interested in seeing purple monoatomic gold transmute into like a clear white gold?
100%. It's amazing, and Jeremiah has showed me this before, so yes, please.
Do it.
So would you guys be interested in seeing it live?
Yeah, put it up.
Yeah,
Okay,
please.
yeah, so Jeremiah's digging up for it right now. We know the method for transmuting it. So just give us a few minutes here and keep on talking about what you're going on with, and we'll let you know when we're ready.
Okay. I'll pull up some more stuff looking at the well, I mean, I saw the Bodo thing, but looking at this idea of human cloning, it starts out the exact same way, that you're going through, this in vitro fertilization, you're creating this tiny little life.
Somebody said, is this girl an alien?
Yeah, right? I don't know, man. Cloning.
So I'd be interested, Bernie, to see, because I believe, I don't know if you've ever heard of Vincent Bridges. He talks a lot about Edward Kelly, John Dee, and their alchemical experiments. And he has this idea that the red powder of projection was actually a meteorite. And that's why when they ran out of that powder, they weren't ever able to reproduce the transmutations. Edward Kelly being one of the first.
Powder of projection.
Are we able to get meteorite?
But that is absolutely fascinating, and I'm going to need the link for that because it corresponds directly with my own research and work into deciphering Sir Isaac Newton's alchemy process and writings.
So. The reason I bring that up is because in the Liber Vacae, it talks about using and I'm going to quote here, whoever wishes to make a rational animal should take his own water while warm, so that's your sperm, and let him mix it with an equal measure of the stone that is called stone of the sun. This is a stone that shines at night like a lamp until the place in which it is found is illuminated. And it uses this in this experiment, and I relate that to a meteorite, right? Because typical meteorite, when it lands, it's glowing and it lights up the area that it's found in. And it just so happens that Vincent Bridges talks about it perhaps being this red powder projection being of a meteorite. And they talk about that Egyptian pharaoh that has the dagger made out of some sort of meteorite as well. So again, I'd be interested to see what happens when you put that in that water.
Yeah.
That is.
Oh, no doubt, for sure. That would be awesome. I'm also equally wanting to put a meteorite metal in to see what's created. Few things. The red state of this matter, Sir Isaac Newton says that it's the sixth state of transmutational metals, and it's the final state of metal, or it's live when it's red, and then you get it into the pink seventh crystalline state, And when you get metals into this state, it's when you're able to physically transmutate one solid metal into another. And all metals go through these processes. And through my electrolysis, I have been able to turn about 10 different metals, gold, silver, aluminum, zinc, copper, iron, bismuth, a couple more, through all of these 7 states, and I can get them into this red state, and I've also gotten them into these pink crystalline states. And when they're in this crystal state, the metals literally sparkle when you put light on them, like they're crystals reflecting light. But this red powder that comes off of the red state of metal, I've created a few times, and when I dried it out and then put it back onto another metal, it instantly combusts and like almost explodes, turns into flame. I've turned several types of metals into this red state, and then a couple types of these metals into the red powdered dried state that combusts.
Have you ever snorted it, bro? Tell the truth.
No, definitely not. I have eaten a bit of the monoatomic gold and silver combination, and I drink the colloidal water of the gold silver.
The Egyptians were eating mummies and allegedly
the Europeans were eating the
gold.
mummies.
Man, I
Europeans
remember. Yeah, I got stories.
Yeah,
You got to be careful about eating monatomic metals.
So
I'll put it this way. I got to tell a story. I got a boss one time when I was living in LA. So for a while, I was working at Melrose Place for this guy. His name is Joe. I won't say his full name, but
Joe Rogan.
No, different Joe, I promise. So, but he was like, he was a little crazy to begin with, and it was cool working for them at first because they were like involved with, you know, Israeli like producers, and a lot of them were former Mossad agents because he lived in Israel, you know, from the military. So they all had guns, and they had licenses for guns in LA, which is, you know, they go to the sheriff, and they were like former cops basically and soldiers, so they could. And then they had a 24-hour day on-call rabbi, and it was like the coolest place to work because they're like, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to get organic gardening, do it. Like the front of the building, put a bunch of edible landscaping so people think our business is cool to it. So they were pretty cool with everything we wanted. But anything I was into, he would like want to do and do more. So he got into like edible herbal essences, and he went to the store, like to the fancy, you know, co-op like Erewhon place, and just like spent like $1,000, like just bought every single bottle of all of the essential oils they had. And then he went and he bought like all the gold and monatomic metals he could find, gold, silver, etc. And he was mixing them all together. He got them and he poured them into a giant thing. No one should ever do this, is obviously the point of this story. But then he was like, yeah, you know, the human body can have like up to 3% or 0.3%, I forget what it was, gold in the blood. So I'm trying to keep it right at the limit. I was like, I don't know if that's what you're. It's not the lesson you're supposed to get,
bro.
Like, I think a little bit goes a long way. Maybe you're sure you want to be doing like the whole thing. And so eventually he was getting like metal poisoning or something. He's going crazy.
All right, we're doing the little demo here.
Okay. Hold on. All right. Zoom it. Yeah. But I showed up at work one time, and the lights were out, and then I was escorted at gunpoint in, and he had a briefcase handcuffed to himself in a chair while he was wearing a motorcycle helmet, and he was sitting there in the dark, and he was just like, he'd gone completely insane. And the last time I heard about him, he was like on the news being chased by police cars in the Palisades.
Can you walk us through
stories of going absolutely
Do you want more?
psychotic and seeing if
Okay.
you
Are you sure?
ingest too much of it or the wrong amount? So Jeremiah, what's the chemical compound of the purple gold? And can you show the purple, the color
The
of it?
purple gold was sent by Dan, and
So you can see there's just a very little bit amount of purple gold at the bottom.
barely a few milligrams.
Okay, so
we're
Joe,
about to
there's
put-
purple gold at the
We're
bottom.
about
Say
to
what,
put 1 to 2 drops.
Do we know the chemical
uh,
composition of purple gold?
Hydrogen peroxide at 34%. Another drop. And you can, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's reacting.
Fully dissolving and then particulating out in the same white monoatomic state.
I'm going to put a little bit more purple gold.
Is purple gold valuable?
Same price as
Well,
regular.
purple gold is great. It just needs to go to that transmutation process.
Really? I never
So,
even knew there was
Purple
purple
gold is made from pure 24 karat gold. It's just undergone a
Three more
chemical
drops.
process.
Okay.
Interesting. Wow.
Okay, so I'm going to add 3 more drops of 34% hydrogen peroxide.
Making Homunculus on the Xirtus channel live, ladies and gentlemen.
We like to be weird here, bro. If you like it weird, subscribe. Click
This
on the
is
bell.
worth the wait, dude.
Somebody said it was a rare compilation of really weird, like, important stuff.
Yeah.
I'll put that on the poster.
I love that.
Man, any frame out of context on this episode,
So
though.
you can see all the purple has just been,
Dissolved.
dissolved by. Would you like to see a big piece go in here? A bigger piece of purple gold?
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe you got,
Alright.
you got money.
I
like
have,
that.
I have thoughts
Yeah.
on why this is
Yeah.
happening, obviously, to
It's
do
right
with
there,
like par density of the molecular size of the material. So there's reasons why this is probably happening. If you think
This
about
dude's
it,
got the bet spear there in the background. He's got all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
I need one of those for my techno machines.
Okay. All right, got it. Oh. All right, yeah, I see it.
I gotta build a Euro rack, but you know what I always told myself?
All
Not
right,
even
so
close.
There you go.
babe, get the light on it. You see that's a pretty good chunk of purple gold.
Yeah, it's hard to see.
Sparkly.
But I see it there. Yeah, it's
Let's
blurry.
let's
but
put something behind that. Just a second. Let's put something behind that so we can actually see it.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
And if you turn it a little bit, you can kind of see it sparkling off.
Jeremiah refuses to do videos, but then jumps into the rescue, knowing full well how to deal with autofocus cameras better than anyone here, because he's been doing this for years.
Hey,
Thanks, Jeremiah.
I'm the one holding it, so little
No,
credit.
They mean by
Yeah, her
money
camera is
like
way better than
No
mine.
disrespect, no.
Okay,
I just like to antagonize
you can-
Jeremiah.
I would actually see
All right.
it so they can see it. Yeah.
So you see how the bottom of the test tube is right
Enslaved
now.
by truth, yes, I can. The older the parts, the
Alright.
better. The newer parts have left.
I'm about to drop it in.
But I'd rather just wear the parts as actual jewelry, because, like, at this
Whoa.
point, whoa, there he goes.
So can you turn it back or is it gone
What is
forever?
this? Isn't water, right? What did you put it in?
Hydrogen peroxide 34%.
Right. Okay.
And you can see that there's vapors coming out. And
Yeah.
it is getting quite hot. Quite hot.
Whoa. Can you get it back or what?
So there is a couple process.
It's like Full Metal Alchemist, and Juan's like, "Bro, where's my
Okay, so
arm?"
one more drop of 34% hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
Another drop.
Don't try this at home, kids. I don't have the
Yeah.
alert with the BurnEye's alert, but
One more drop.
don't get monoatomic gold and hydrogen peroxide. No.
I'm not
Don't
gonna
use
lie, this
acid
test
without
tube is
gloves.
fucking hot. Excuse my language. I'm sorry.
I'll hold on to that for a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's right now the test tube at the basin is about 245 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa.
Yeah, hold that for your girlfriend.
Safety
Come on.
equipment, safety.
But the exothermic reaction hadn't reached the top of the test tube for a bit of time. What I find really cool is, let me shut off the light here, actually.
Protective gear. Who needs that, right? Who needs glasses and
Everybody,
gloves?
but everybody, including Jeremiah. Although Jeremiah won't, he just kind of refuses. Oh, Jeremiah.
So these there's people who are out here doing real stuff in labs. So the idea of a homunculus being born, you have BurnEye mixing his bodily fluids into different containers,
So yeah, you better do it
realm.
before BurnEye does it, or else you're gonna have a bunch of Canadian homunculi.
No, so that's why BurnEye has a second camera, dude, so he can put his homunculi on homunculus in one, and then he can sit on the other camera, and boom.
Bert and Ernie equal
Bert and
BurnEye
Ernie
is a lot deeper than people realize.
Homunculus.
Yeah, it's two. It's two that become one, like in Bill and Ted Station.
Yo, I'm gonna hit the X-Files.
Hail Nicolas Cage. Brought to you by Pfizer. What the fuck?
Can you believe that reaction, though? We're just adding more peroxide. It's already reacted, but it's not losing its potency. Look at this. It's ridiculous.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
This is just hydrogen peroxide. This is not acid. This is not anything else. This is just hydrogen peroxide.
Somebody said they out here grilling in their bare feet.
Crazy reaction.
And it'll keep on going like that for a while. I actually have to set it down to let it kind of cool down here, because the exothermic reaction from such a tiny chunk, and again, we probably put, I would guess, somewhere around maybe 15 milligrams or less into there. And it just keeps on going and going and going. In fact, I've looked up reactions of hydrogen peroxide at high concentration and low concentration with potassium permanganate, with all kinds of alkali metals. And I've never found one, not a single reaction, that contains more metal than basically what is inside of this container. And whatever this stuff is, I mean, it is some magical material. And I'll show you.
Dimethyltryptamine.
It's sparkly. It's kind of purplish. It's got a little bit of red. It's got a little bit of yellowish hue, a little bit of orangish hue, bit of blue and green in there, whatever it is. And let me shut this down. Maybe we show this better.
Straight metamaterial.
Oh, very much. So the story behind this stuff is Dan got this from a buddy of his. They were simultaneously studying some of the same sort of metaphysical, alchemical, and physics materials. And so, they met across, and this guy had a laboratory with a particle accelerator in it. And he had found, very much like Hutchinson, or not Hutchinson, excuse me, David Hudson did, he had found materials in the hillsides of California, samples that had all kinds of very bright deposits of fairly powdery material. So, long
From
story
a particle accelerator? What'd you
well,
say?
no, this guy had found these things in the sand against hillsides, against the beach. And so he took them to his particle accelerator laboratory and had used that to refine them down, knocking off all the particles that he didn't want, from what I understand. But we don't know exactly what his method was. It was something that was quite exotic, to say the least.
Whoa, dude.
Nobody really has an idea exactly what he did. But whatever the heck it was, he had managed to make these ultra concentrated materials like we just had looked at on camera. And they contain a huge, huge amount of energy. It's almost as if their stable protons bond to each other, and adding the peroxide somehow allows them to react. Now, here's the funny thing. You put them into water and there's no fizzling. There's no exothermic reaction whatsoever. You put them into a little bit of vinegar, you really don't get an exothermic or an endothermic reaction. But you put them into peroxide and holy freaking cow, do they react.
Wow.
Man.
Vinegar, they actually react very strangely. It's almost as if they take the hydrocarbon chain apart and form these little black platelets that start floating around inside. I think it may be forming graphene spontaneously, but I'm not sure.
We got to get that guy on with the particle accelerator on, see what he was doing. Just trying to make
We wish we knew where he was, but the guy has been gone for a while, and unfortunately we have no idea what happened to him. But we do have the material from that experiment, and it's just really weird stuff. I mean, it's a truly fantastic material.
Wow. Yeah,
but that's what it looks like, and that's just with hydrogen peroxide as a reactant.
Theoretically, getting less color means getting smaller particles. Getting more thicker particles, larger particles means getting red. If you look at R density, color spectrum, I think we've done this a couple times, but let me show you again. Spectrum.
And we were talking about the Hans purple, that color that literally escapes this dimension. It goes from 3D to 2D when it is cooled down to a certain temperature. So that is an actual thing, and that's what the terracotta warriors were painted in. So that's why I think it's some sort of ancient tech.
Yeah, elaborate a bit on Han purple, because this is interesting.
So it's a 2,000-year-old pigment that they haven't even been able to reproduce. And I know it because of the terracotta soldiers. And they did an experiment actually here in Tallahassee, Florida, I believe, where they cooled it down to close to absolute zero, and it went from a 3D particle to like a 2D. So it escaped the dimension essentially, which again, it's 2,000 years old and they have not been able to reproduce it. So it makes you think of what kind of technology these guys had, because that's really...
We lost Xirtus. We
Did
got
we?
Xirtus back.
Oh, there he is.
All right. And
We can't hear you.
A little bit. No, I can hear you.
is my audio bad? Is it okay?
No,
Yeah, it
it's
sounds... I think it might be coming through your little toggle thing. Switch it up in the...
Hello, 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 hello.
There you
No,
go.
I hear you fine.
All right,
Better.
cool. On purple. Okay. So wait. Quantum. Where was that? Quantum. Exotic chemical properties, applications, superconductivity, quantum computing. 2006 at Stanford, Los Alamos National Laboratory, the Institute for Solid State Physics, University of Tokyo, showed that Han purple loses a dimension under suitable conditions when it enters a new state as a Bose-Einstein condensate. The researchers noted that we have shown for the first time that the collective behavior in a bulk three-dimensional material can actually occur in just two dimensions. Low dimensionality is a key ingredient in many exotic theories that purport to account for various poorly understood phenomena, including high-temperature superconductivity. But until now, there were no clear examples of dimensional reduction in real materials. Until this paint.
Yep, that's 2,000 years old, and they have not been able to reproduce it. So what were these dudes on? And they were known alchemists. They were trying to find the elixir of life. They were like, BurnEye, dude, what if BurnEye escapes this dimension one night when mixing his toenails into this concoction?
If this was like 10 years ago, let alone 100, people would burn BurnEye at the stake. So it's cool that we're like super socially accepting of like, you know, like all kinds of people read to kids in libraries now. BurnEye can do all kinds of stuff. It's cool. I didn't mean it like that. No, I'm excited for you. I love what Juan said though. Is like
nerding out is finally socially acceptable.
Right.
Almost cool.
To think that a couple 100 years ago you would have been burned at the stake for showing what you showed on air.
Decades ago in certain states. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. And so it's go ahead.
So each of the ancient alchemical texts starts off with, if you share this with the public, you will be punished by death. Only disclose this with your monarch, your king, and the high court.
Yeah, BurnEye, what are you doing? You warlock?
By death.
And secrets of the coven.
So much of the old alchemists speak of different types of palpable. What's the word where you eat it?
Palpable
gold.
Palpable.
And that it's this white palpable gold, and that there's certain ways that it looks like you're making white palpable gold, but it's poisonous. And then there's other ways that you can make it properly. And the way that Jeremiah was just showing dissolving that blue gold or purple gold, it's one of the states of breaking gold down with the chemicals, with the acids, rinsing it, washing it, and breaking it down into this white, pure monoatomic ormus state, as David Hudson calls it. And it's also described in some of these ancient alchemical texts with these chemicals that you wash it, rinse it, and get it down into this white powder, but that it's a very costing process, because you have to keep using these acids, diluting them, rinsing them, reapplying them, so forth and so forth. Where the process I've discovered, it's just salt water and a little bit of electricity, and then you're melting these pure metal elements down into this white monoatomic process that Sir Isaac Newton calls he states that all metals can be broken down into their most basic molecular form. I believe that's old world speak for molecular form, this monoatomic single white atom form of it, that the ancients say is edible or palpable, that they say that the ancients, so like texts from 500 years ago, these alchemical texts state that the ancients before them had this super process, super tech of this palatable gold, edible gold, and that they're trying to reproduce it over and over again. And the one time that about a month's time, once a week, I'd be eating a small amount of this pure monoatomic gold that I made. I need to make some more. I've just got a little bit of gold. It's really expensive because I'm using pure 24 karat gold to make it, right? But when I ate just a small amount of it once a week for 4 times, each time I ate it, I started like getting memories back from like a childhood, from like very, very young childhood. I was energized. I like didn't need to eat. I like barely slept for like 3 days afterwards, just energized, thinking, working away. And so it's very, very interesting, and wonder so
They
how
cut him
much
off.
more.
They nuked them.
Nuked you. Well, guys, I gotta get ready for tomorrow because I'm gonna have a whole day that's going on. So
not medical advice. Don't ever eat it on your own. It's very, very dangerous. You can get
don't eat metal, guys.
Heavy metal poisoning accumulation very quickly. And this blue-green, all metals also turn into the blue-green oxidized diatomic state. And this is the poisonous stuff. This is where you will get your heavy metal poisoning very easily. And just I've been making the process of this monoatomic white silver, silver on silver, making monoatomic silver, and just having I was making it for a friend one time at his place, and like one of his buddies that is like just a retard drunk F up basically. Anywho, came into the room, came into the house, and all of a sudden the white monoatomic just started making blue diatomic oxidized. It's crazy. Nothing changed at all, just like the energy in the room. And was
it like a very whitish blue, like almost an electric blue on the exterior?
Sorry, say again.
Okay, so this blue you saw, did it look anything like a laser beam that was mostly white, but on the exterior it was kind of like an electric blue?
No, it just looks like this layer here at the bottom where usually it's white. It all just instantly turned to the blue oxidized diatomic. And then there's this red material that the alchemists claim is mercury, actual mercury state. Who knows if they actually transmutate into mercury, what that compound is, but I've turned several metals into that as well.
Nice. CIA. All right. Well, okay. So let me go to the oneononepodcast.com. Guys, if you want to subscribe to the Patreon of One and get yourselves a copy also of the Chosen One comic book from Paranoid American, it's $333. So it's like, and if you don't, you're a fool. And I'm sorry. And like, if your parents don't get it for you, they don't love you. And, just get yourselves a copy. It's a really great. If you don't have this, you're missing out on like being a part of the future. You know what I'm saying? Like this is part of the solution to your problems right here.
It's part for your alchemical gold and your homunculus operations. You need it.
Yeah.
You need it because the secret to the Philosopher's Stone is contained within.
It's pretty sweet.
Those with eyes to see it.
Yeah, and you can back the Chosen One #2 on Kickstarter. There's also episode 4 is being made soon. So Chosen One, and then the one-on-one podcast, and then he's got books as well as podcasts. I don't know where the book link went.
Yeah, the journals is right there.
There it is. Yes, the journal.
Cultus Mundi.
Yeah,
right about esoteric and occulted topics. So
777. Yeah, pretty great stuff actually. Highly recommended. So guys, get yourselves a copy of Occultus Mundi from One on One.
That's right. Thank you so much, Xirtus. This was great. Had a lot
Thanks
of
for putting
fun.
up with all the craziness. Yeah, we'll do
Yeah.
more of those. This is good.
Absolutely. We got to do another one ASAP, Rocky, and bring in Dr. Luongo.
Yeah, we'll set that up. We'll set that up for next week or something. But guys, you got to remember that when you're messing around with this sort of stuff, you got to be careful who's gonna come a knocking, because they come a knocking and they try to. So.